Welcome back. In this video, we're going to add a health variable to the character class. We're also going to allow the enemy to be able to damage the character so we can lower the character's health value. Let's get started. So here we are in the character class. We're going to add a private variable, and this is going to be a float called health. We'll initialize it to 100.f using braced initialization, and we're also going to need to get this value from outside the class. So that means we'll need a public getter. Go ahead and type it out. So it's probably feeling like second nature by now. You'll type float get health and then return health. Now, since we're making so many public getters, it's time to teach you a new concept, and that's the concept of const functions. If we place the const keyword right after the parentheses but before the function body, this function will now be const. And what that means is that we're making a promise to never change any members that belong to this class from within this function. If we attempt to do so, we'll get a compilation error. In general, basic getters like this are usually const. So from now on, when we make a getter, we'll mark it const. Now, we'd also like to have a function that allows the character to take damage. I'm going to make this function return void and call it take damage. The input parameter is going to be a float called damage. Now let's define this function in the CPP file. So we'll go to character.cpp, and all the way down at the bottom, we'll put our function name with a function body, and we'll make sure the function name is fully qualified with character and a scope resolution operator. Now this function is going to be pretty simple. It's simply going to take health and subtract away the damage value, and then we're going to check to see if health has become less than or equal to 0.f. And the reason is, if that's the case, we want to set that alive Boolean value to false using our public setter function setAlive and passing in false. So this is more complicated than a basic getter, as it's decrementing health, and then if we've hit 0 health, set the character's alive variable to false. So we now have health and the ability to take damage. So let's go to our enemy.h header file and let's add a damage variable. Now this is going to be a private variable of float type, and I'm going to call this damage per sec, short for damage per second, and I'm going to give it a value of 10.f. We'd like to cause this much damage per second if the enemy is overlapping with the character. And this is going to be your challenge. In the enemy's tick function, at the very bottom, use check collision recs. Pass in the character's collision rectangle, which we'll get from the target pointer calling getCollisionRec. And then the other rectangle is going to be the enemy's own collision rectangle. We can get that with getCollisionRec. Now, if we have a collision, then you're going to call take damage on the target. What you're going to pass in is the value of damage per sec times delta time. This way, we'll get the exact amount of damage we need for a single frame, equivalent to 10 damage per second. Pause the video and do this now. So here is the enemy's tick function. We're going to scroll down to the bottom, and here is where we're going to check for collisions. So we'll make an if statement, and we're going to call check collision recs. Now, first we're going to pass in target getCollisionRec. And the second rectangle will be the enemy's, which we can get with getCollisionRec. Now, if we have a collision, we're going to call take damage on the character through the target pointer. So we'll use the arrow operator and call take damage, and what we're going to pass in is damage per sec times delta time. And we have access to delta time since we're in the tick function, and that's the float input parameter to this function. Great job. So in summary, we gave the enemy class the ability to damage the character, and it does this in the tick function when their collision rectangles are overlapping. In the next video, we'll code the ability to display the health value on the screen. I'll see you then.